Jerry, do you concur? We're good to go?
We are good to go.
Thank you, sir. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And I would like to ask Rochelle to please tell us what we've done to comply with the Open Meetings Act, please.
Notice of the meeting was filed with the Secretary of State and the county on October 5th, 2020. A copy of the agenda was posted at 10 a.m. on November 12th, 2020.
Thank you, Rochelle. Good to see you, by the way. And with that, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Regent Bergen?
Here.
Regent Eccles?
Present.
Regent Farzana?
Present.
Regent Font?
Present.
Always a dramatic entry.
Regent Perry?
Where do you go?
Present.
Regent White?
Present.
Regent Youngblood?
Here. Thank you very much. With that, we move to item 4. This is the President's report on our state regents' budget proposal and legislative proposal. Mr. President. Jerry, if you're there, we can't hear you. You may be on mute. I don't know, but I don't see you.
There I am. I'm sorry, I didn't unmute. As you know, the state regents met last week and to announce the budget and legislative proposals for the coming year. The public agenda goals they set were to increase the number of college graduates, enhance and improve the quality of higher education, and strengthen student preparation to meet the challenges of the global economy. The budget, the FY be 22 budget, wouldn't it? Need was stated as workforce development was a major part of that budget, 33.8 million, and there were specific amounts for engineering and nursing initiatives, as well as physicians residency initiative. Probably the item there that could potentially impact OCCC would be the nursing initiative. They didn't talk about the details of the initiative in this meeting, however. Another item of the budget request had to do with operational costs and deferred maintenance. And that's the term the state regents use when they talk about deferred maintenance. They are really talking about Section 13 offset money. As you recall, last session, we were able to achieve, we actually received more money than the state regents requested for Section 13 offset increases last year. And that was due to the good office of the Representative John Eccles, who helped us get more than the request. Now, keep in mind that this request for increases really just is replacing money that we lost during the big budget crunch a few years ago. So while it's good to have additional funds, it is not as much as it might appear otherwise. The regents are proposing additional funding for the Oklahoma teacher education shortage to meet that shortage. And again, something that could affect community colleges. They're proposing 1.8 million for workforce micro-credentials and rapid reemployment initiatives. As you know, some businesses and industries are focusing now on credentialing instead of degrees. And so these micro-credentials that are stackable are something the state regents are going to be focusing on. In addition to that, there was a proposal for money for additional scholarship and financial aid. The most important of that request for OCCC is that the state regents are proposing funding that will make both junior and senior concurrent enrollment fully funded. As you know, we fund it anyway. We've been funding junior concurrent enrollment from our funds, but this proposal would fund it at the state level for both juniors and seniors. It is a popular program in the legislature. There's a lot of talk about funding the junior concurrent, and if I had to guess, I'd guess that this is one of those proposals that probably has the best chance of being realized. There's also funding for adult degree completion and workforce reentry scholarships. And another item that's a little over $10 million that really doesn't affect OCCC directly is funding for the endowed chairs program. As you know, for 13, 14 years, there's been a program whereby the state would match donations for endowed chairs. And for many, many years, the state has not lived up to that responsibility. And so this proposal is there again. OCCC, unless we've gotten an endowed chair in the last few weeks, I don't know about. We don't have any endowed chairs, so it doesn't affect us directly. The legislative agenda that was proposed is the adoption of the budget proposal that I've just described to you, continued funding of Oklahoma's Promise, maintaining the current law regarding weapons on campus, and implementing the task force on the future of higher education recommendations. And as you all know, probably the most controversial of those has been the consolidation of institutions. Complete College America to increase the number of graduates, and continued support of OneNet, which is the State Regents IT network. It is the funding for higher education will be any increase will be difficult. As you all know, the proposal that was on the ballot November 3rd that had to do with the TSET funding, it was defeated, and so therefore there will need to be some way for the legislature. The number I'm hearing is about 184, 186 million that's going to be necessary for the Medicaid expansion, and at least the proposal was the reduction in the TSET funding from 75% to 25% would have covered most of that. So that's going to make the budget year even more challenging. And I'll close just by saying this: remember that the budget proposed by the state regents is aspirational. Typically, there's not many people in the room that believe that the legislature will fully fund all the requests. And so I think while we are certainly, at least I'm supportive of the state regents budget request, and I suspect you are too, it is good to keep in mind that it is aspirational and not necessarily what will happen this next session. If there are no questions, Chair Youngblood, that concludes the president's report.
Any questions from the board? Mr. President, you said in passing, and because I know you know this program well, just for those who don't, Oklahoma's Promise is one of the things that they're trying to keep up with. Can you give us a little more insight as to what that is and how that works?
Yeah, set up a number of years ago, and it provides financing for students to go to college if they meet certain requirements. You know what? With our OKC Go program, all you have to do is graduate from an Oklahoma City public school or Western Heights, and you qualify. With the Oklahoma's Promise, there's a minimum grade point average requirement. There's a conduct requirement. There is a family income limit on participation, but essentially it is for lower income students have a path to a college education if they stay in school, do what's right, maintain a reasonable grade point average, and their family income. I think the limit this year, if somebody can correct me if I'm off, is $60,000 family income. So it is a wonderful program, and it has assisted so many low income and modest income students to go get a college education. And it's statewide. It's run by the Regents, and it is different than a lot of other funding for the state Regents, because the Oklahoma's Promise money, it's called what comes off the top. that means that money, and there are other monies like this. There's some road money and there's some other monies that are off the top, which means it doesn't have to go through the regular legislative process. It's already in the law that it comes, as they say, off the top. So it's money in hand when the funds are received. So it's a statewide program, Chair Youngblood, and has met lots of needs for lots of students. And over the years, I have talked to a number of state legislators who were Oklahoma's Promise students. So they really do get it, those that have been through it.
I appreciate you going through that just as a reminder to all of us, because that's a program that has tremendous benefit for our students. Our students probably use that a disproportionate amount, and it's a wonderful program. So thank you for that report. Any other questions from the board? If not, I'll move on to item 5. This is for action. This is our consent agenda. I would take a motion for approval.
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Rochelle, I'm sure you can pick one of those out and make that look really good. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana?
Yes.
Regent Font?
Yes.
Regent Perry?
Yes.
Regent White?
Yes.
Regent Youngblood?
Yes. Move to item 6. This is an action item authorizing the administration to request approval by the Oklahoma State Regents for higher education for our college to seek approval of curriculum changes for 20 current degree programs. Delighted to bring to our reporting here, Ms. Kim Jamison. Kim?
Good morning, and thank you all for your time. The college routinely submits our curriculum changes to the Oklahoma State Regents for higher ed so that we can make changes in all of our degrees or programs for the next fiscal year. So that would be 21 through 22. And the bulk of these that are being submitted right now are to move to electronic delivery for our programs. I think there's 8 of them. And then also changes to meet industry demands. Does anyone have any specific questions on any of the programs? Or?
This is a fairly routine item that we do annually, right, Kim?
Yes, we do it every year in order to. We cannot make changes in our programs with our classes, sections, anything like that until we submit it through the state regents. But we need your approval for academic affairs to be able to submit those documents.
Do I hear a motion to authorize approval?
Motion. Second.
And a second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana?
Yes.
Regent Font?
Yes.
Regent Perry?
Yes.
Regent White?
Yes.
And Regent Youngblood?
Yes, we go to item B. Thank you, Kim, by the way. This is a report on a lot of activity going on with our facilities committee. Who is doing this? Jeremy?
I am.
Who is I am?
Regent Perry.
Okay. Hit it, sir.
Well, good morning, everyone. Chair Youngblood requested the Board Facilities Committee to meet and review, authorizing the administration to solicit a bid for the College Union roof replacement project. Also authorizing the administration to contract with Miles and Associates to provide architectural services for the Health Professions Center expansion project, and the solicitation for bid information and outcome for the main building central plant renovation project. The Board of Regents Facility Committee met on Thursday, November 5th of this year. In attendance in the meeting were myself, Regent White, Regent Farzana, Mr. Greg Gardner, Dr. Jeremy Thomas, and Mr. Chris Snow. Mr. Chris Snow presented information involving the project details for the replacement of the College Union roofing system. Mr. Snow answered questions from the members of the committee and provided additional details. Regent White and Regent Farzana, do you have anything you would like to add?
I do not.
Regent White?
You're muted, Jim.
I don't have anything to add either.
I would just like to add that it was nice to have someone like Regent Farzana on the committee. I realized that the
True.
little I do know about building is nothing. So I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Are there any questions from the board? All right, with the permission of Chairman Youngblood, I would like to proceed to the agenda item 6C and move to authorize the administration to solicit a bid for the College Union roof replacement project from Oklahoma Roofing, in which Oklahoma Roofing was awarded the competitively bid Oklahoma State contract for roofing services for the college's region. Dr.
Is our
Thomas?
motion? Oh,
Excuse
go
me.
ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Is that our motion then?
That is the motion.
Okay, do we hear a second?
I second that.
We have a second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana?
Yes.
Regent Font?
Yes.
Regent Perry?
Yes.
Regent White?
Yes.
And Regent Youngblood.
Yes. Move to item D, authorizing the administration to contract with Miles Associates. Is this, let's continue with it.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Dr. Thomas and Mr. Garner presented information involving the project details for the expansion of the Health Professions Center utilizing College Union Rooms 1, 2, and 3, the former Tech Spot area, the former Executive and Vice President's Suite, current Trio Officer Bursar's office. Dr. Thomas and Mr. Gardner answered questions from the members of the committee and provided additional details. Regent White, Regent Farzana, do you have anything you would like to add?
I do not.
Oh, the report looks good.
Are there any questions from the board?
I do have a question. I know that there's been some comments from the staff as I sit through all these meetings about input in the expansion of these facilities and how they're designed. Has there been any contact with any staff member as far as the design and the way the architect should be looking at expanding these facilities?
Regent Youngblood, if I may, just
Please do.
for a moment. We actually sat down with our Health Professions Division as a unit, and they helped us come up with preliminary blueprints that we provided to the committee. And so this was used with their full input. The next stage of this will actually be to use Miles and Associates to come back to them to draw up the real blueprint. So the answer is yes. We've used them lock and step from day one.
Great question, Ro. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Kevin.
All right, thank you. With permission of Chairman Youngblood, I would like to proceed to agenda. Oh, excuse me. I guess. Yes, I'm sorry. Proceed to agenda item 6D and move to authorize the administration to contract with Miles and Associates to provide architectural services for the alternative option for Health Professions Center project.
That is our motion. Do we have a second?
Regent White, you are muted.
We're gonna. Jim, is that your second? I think I heard a yes somewhere in there. So I can go that. That is our second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana?
Yes.
Regent Font?
Yes.
Regent Perry?
Yes.
Regent White?
Am I on?
Yes.
Now you are.
Okay.
And Regent Youngblood?
Yes. Thank you. One more, Kevin.
Yes, sir. Last item, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chris Snow presented the solicitation for bid information and outcome for the main building central renovation project. Mr. Snow answered questions from the members of the committee and provided additional details. Regent White, Regent Farzana, do you have anything you would like to add?
I do not.
No.
Are there any questions from the board? Thank you. I would like to take time to make note that I've been very, very impressed with Mr. Chris Snow, with Dr. Thomas and Mr. Gardner. I thought they've done an excellent job in the committee meeting and I've just been very, very impressed. I'm not impartial to any of the three things, but I thought they've done an excellent job, so I wanted that to be noted. With the permission of Chairman Youngblood, I'd like to proceed to the agenda item 6E and move to authorize the administration to award a contract for the main building central plant renovation project to Saker Mechanical as the lowest responsible bidder for the base bid, alternate 1 and alternate 2, in the amount not to exceed $1,784,300.
That is our motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana?
Yes.
Regent Font?
Yes.
Regent Perry?
Yes.
Regent White?
Yes.
And Regent Youngblood?
Yes. Before we move on, I just want to kind of echo some of what Kevin was saying, but about the whole committee as well, and our staff doing it. There's some really good work that you guys have done there. You're going to see, I think, more things coming through this committee, and having Jalal's experience there is tremendous. Kevin is being humble because he deals with design and building issues all the time in his world as well. And Jim White has a long history of doing the same, as well as being an institutional voice in what we're doing here. So great work by the committee, and I just want to applaud all of you for a lot of hard work. With that, we're going to move to information reports on item 7A. Before we get that, I do want to say that this is an effort being made by our management team. Try to put some different faces up there. You know, our college is run by a lot of different folks. And rather than just having a handful of the same ones make presentations, feedback from somebody pretty badly, by the way. You might go ahead and, if you wouldn't mind, muting your mics unless you're the one speaking, because somewhere we're picking up something. I would appreciate it. So thank you. That seemed to have solved it. I appreciate that. Anyway, this is an effort to put some of the faces to some of the people who have been doing the work and doing a lot of things. And I really applaud that. I thought that was a really good idea. So we get to start off with our fiscal year 2020 financial aid report and recognize Mr. Chris Snoddy. He is the Associate Vice President of Student Affairs. Hey, Chris.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Go ahead and share my screen real quick. All right. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to present to you and the board today on the fiscal year 2020 financial aid report. To get started, just verify everybody's able to see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. In fiscal year 2020, the number of students receiving grants and scholarships increased, whereas the number of students accepting actual loans decreased. Our enrollment headcount and financial aid recipients for the past 5 fiscal years are displayed here. In fiscal year 2016, to your far left, 49% of our enrolled students received financial aid, and that percentage remained about the same until last year, when that number grew to 63% and landed at 61% in fiscal year 2020. The amount of aid recipients dipped a bit this year, but the financial aid impact remained well above 10,000 recipients. The amount of financial aid dispersed over the past 5 fiscal years has remained fairly steady, only declining slightly because, as stated earlier, fewer students took out loans. Another thing to keep in mind is that this does not reflect the CARES Act student funding that was dispersed earlier this year, in which OCCC gave out over $2.7 million directly to our student population, spent over $300,000 for institutional support to adjust operations due to the COVID-19 impact. Overall, grants continue to be the largest source of funds dispersed at 51%. In fact, OCCC dispersed $14,841,870 in Pell Grant funds in fiscal year 2020. 85% of OCCC's financial aid recipients received at least some Pell Grant funding.
Wow.
The smallest source of aid dispersed was federal work study at 1%, but generally, many students receive more than one type of funding to assist with their educational expenses. Regarding graduate student loan debt, the number of OCCC student borrowers decreased from 14.3% in fiscal year 2019 to 13.0% in fiscal year 2020. The average amount borrowed remained steady at $4,280 in fiscal year 2019 to $4,290 in fiscal year 2020. OCCC's latest report regarding the official cohort default rate demonstrated a decrease from 18.4% to 16.7%. These percentages represent student borrowers from fiscal year 2017 who defaulted by fiscal year 2020. In other words, 302 student borrowers of the 1,801 student borrowers who began paying their loans back in fiscal year 2017 had failed to make successive payments within 3 years per the original loan agreement. In order to combat and reduce these rates, the Financial Aid Office provides financial literacy to educate students on financial aid opportunities, loan repayment responsibilities, and managing financial aid. Additionally, the option to complete financial awareness counseling is available to all students, and students who opt for loans are required to complete online loan entrance and exit counseling. Lastly, our student success advisors and TRIO grant programs also provide financial literacy and personal economic planning as guidance as well. That concludes my report. Do we have any questions?
Chris, before I open up the board, could I get you to go back to slide 5? I want to have a question about that chart right there. Do you have any insight on why the jump took place from fiscal 17 to 18? That's a pretty big leap when it looked like we were heading down before.
I will defer to Provost Thomas to help me out with that question.
See, you're new, and I wanted to challenge you right off the bat. Make sure we had you on your toes here and doing so. Jeremy, you have any insight to that? It may be
and I was hoping he wasn't going to give it to me.
Contingencies are ready.
That's right. So we had a time period between 2017 and then really into late 2018 where we were giving out less waivers and as an institution. We really started increasing that into 2018, really into 2019. And so what you're seeing is you saw an increased use of student loan because we provided less waivers, budget cuts, that also goes in the state budget cut time period. And then you're seeing that decline because we're offsetting that cost.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, please, Chair Youngblood. I'm wondering what is the interest rate on the loan amount and whether OCCC has any say-so to the financial institution, and if there is any way that we can help the students to get a lower rate.
Good question.
Chris, if you're okay, I can. These are federal loans, and so that interest rate is fixed, and we have no control over it whatsoever. Starting in the Obama administration, they really consolidated down the student loan process into one lender, and then just one servicer. So everything's through the Department of Education now.
Do we know what's that interest rate?
I do not know it off the top of my head. It's something we will have to look up.
Okay. And my other question is from about $11,000, I'm sorry, from the amount of loan that they are getting and the scholarships and everything, it seemed like about a good percentage of it was maybe about 25-30% of it was loans, and the rest were grants, scholarships. And I'm wondering, how can we as the Regents, and maybe that's the graph, and the rest of us as the leadership of OCCC can help the students to receive more of the grants, the scholarship, the waivers, the VA help and federal work studies, as opposed to the loans, because I have some family members who got the big loans while they were going through medical school, and then they had a big loan as the size of the loan that you get on a house. And So I'm just trying to see how we can help those students to have less of a loan and more of a grants.
I can jump in just a little bit right here, and I'm sure Dr. Thomas can add to it, but just wanting to make sure we point out that not everyone has applied for financial aid. And one thing that we're doing is try to make sure that we get the message out. FAFSA for the upcoming academic year in 2021, 2022 opened up in October. So we're trying to get the word out. We have table tents. We're sending out messages, campaigns to make sure that people are aware of the aid that's available to them. Last year, for FY 2020, we had 14,081 students identified. OCCC is one of their potential institutions of attendance, but we only had 9,023 that actually enrolled and completed the FAFSA and actually enrolled for OCCC. So getting students to complete the FAFSA, be aware that it's open, completed, and make sure we get them connected with our financial literacy programs and education. That's one thing that'll help us to make sure. We did take a dip. We did take a dip as far as even recently, as far as students who are applying for aid, and they got more grants than loans.
Okay. And what are we doing for them to get the word out so the students would know the difference between financial aid and the loan? Because when I was a student about many years ago, that I'd like to admit. So back then I didn't know the difference, and all I wanted was to get some money because I was in dire need of money. So what are we doing to teach the students and help them to get more of the financial aid that's not loan-based?
If I may, real quick, Chris, one thing to keep in mind: the federal government considers a loan financial aid. They consider it part of the same thing. So I can't, when I offer a financial aid package, I have to give them the loans, the grants, the scholarships all together. And so that almost encourages students to try and accept that money. I can't hide it from them. And so what we are doing at OCCC, which is unique to us, in our advising sessions, we are covering financial literacy. And I think that's the reason you're seeing less students. That's one of the reasons you're seeing students accept fewer loans going forward. So we're trying to educate them on what that means. Don't take out any more than you need. Here are other opportunities for you. That's a new model in higher ed, because most people make you go, you get advising here, and then I'm going to send you down the hallway to go see somebody else that handles the money. We're trying to take care of all that in one spot so that students get a clear message every time. It's hard, and I think we're starting to see a little payoff from it.
Let me chime in. As I was a principal at the school district, schools in the South Side, the more CCC targets our Oklahoma City public school kids, the less you're going to see them trying to get loans because they don't qualify, due to not about their papers, but because they work in jobs where they get paid cash, or they work in, or their parents don't have, they don't submit taxes. So the more we start looking at that population of kids in the Oklahoma City public schools and the increase of Latinos there, you're going to get less kids actually applying for that, and they'll work for their to pay their tuition.
Plus, they're eligible for OCCC Go, which makes them
right.
the ideal one to be able to come here to begin with. So,
and if I might add as well, I know Dr. Thomas has done a great job in increasing our waivers that we issue, because a lot of the students that do receive the loans don't qualify for Pell grants. So they have no choice if their parents don't qualify for the Pell loans, so-called middle class, then they have no choice but to take out a loan. And because the federal government kind of forces us to give the maximum, where there's only so much we can do to prevent them from overextending themselves, but we have been working really hard, not we, Dr. Thomas has been working very hard to increase our merit need waivers that we have to make sure we go up to the 3.5% Regent threshold to make sure we are pushing that as far as we can to get those students who are kind of in that middle section to get waivers so that they don't have to take out loans because they don't qualify for Oklahoma Promise or Pell Grants.
Good feedback, Cynthia. Thanks. Other questions? Other comments from the board?
Question. If you go back to the slide that showed the default rate among the various institutions.
You ask and it appears.
My question is there any explanation or understanding why Tulsa Community College's default percentage is so much less than the others? What are they doing? Is it a more prosperous area? Are there
Currently, I do not have an answer for that, Regent Eccles, but I can check into that and get back with you.
I would just be curious if obviously it'd be nice to have that rate rather than our rate, and I'm wondering if they're doing things specifically to reduce their default rate.
Regent Eccles,
go ahead.
In Regent Eccles, remember this is from 2017. So these students exited OCCC many years ago, 3 years ago.
Good point. Good point.
And so any of our changes we've made now are not going to show up for another 3 years.
So really, that's not a relevant question until we look and see what goes on. Okay, thank you.
But I would add too, because I know a little bit about TCC from some of my work. That is a very well-run school. Demographically, to answer your question, Regent Eccles, their students are not really different. The difference is they are by law the only two-year institution allowed to be in Tulsa County, and so as a result, people go. They have an easier time getting the numbers of people. They're very well run. They'd be a good one to continue to kind of look to for best practices, and there's a lot of similarities between the two of us beyond that. So
thank you for that report. Thank you.
Any others? Chris, your maiden voyage went well. Congratulations. Thank you very much for your report. We'll move on to item B. This is our fall 2020 enrollment report and another new face. Michael is the Director of Recruitment and Admissions. And Michael, I'll start off by apologizing. When you got a name like Devery Youngblood, you should always check to see how somebody pronounces their name. And I did not do that with you, so I'm not going to try to butcher it. Would you first of all tell us how to pronounce your last name and then take off? You got this.
Certainly, Regent Youngblood. You can pronounce my last name as Hoggett.
Hoggett. Nice to see you.
All right. And once we get ready with the slideshow, we'll begin. Again, thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Michael Hoggett. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Admissions here, and I'll be giving you the fall 2020 enrollment report. Next slide, please. This is a comparison report between the fall 19 and the fall 20 semesters. Basically over credit hours and head count. In fall 20, our head count increased by 1.6%. In credit hours, we had a 1 percentage point increase in head count. Next slide, please. The next two slides you will see is a comparison report to show how our students have transitioned from the 16-week semesters to the 8-week terms. And as this information has been coming back to us, we've been digging into the data. And one interesting nugget that we found out was 14% of our overall head count enrolled in the late 8-week term only. So it's already showing benefits, whereas we would not have been up without this late surge of students enrolling only in the late 8-week terms. Next slide, please. Again, another comparison report showing how our credit hours has transitioned from the 16-week semester to the 8-week term. Again, some just interesting FOIs for you. Our full-time enrollment for the fall 20 term has increased by 2.1%, and our part-time enrollment for the fall 20 term has increased by 1.4%. Next slide, please. This is a overall, basically our student body demographics from 19 to 20, showing you what our student body encompasses. As you can see, there hasn't been much change in this data, but as we transition into the next slide, I'll dig into those numbers a bit more regarding the fall 20 term. Yes, next slide, please. All right, thank you. For fall 20, as you can see, new students, we had a 2.8% increase in new students. Regarding new transfer students, we had a 0.5% increase. And with our returning students, we had a 1.3% increase in our new students. Next slide, please. And this is our information regarding headcount for our concurrent students, another comparison slide. We had for the fall 20 term, we had a 7.6% increase in the number of headcount concurrent students. That increase was fueled mainly by our junior concurrent students, as you can see with the numbers. And we'll go to the next slide, which sums up my presentation. Does the board have any questions for me regarding the report?
Any questions?
Don't have a question, but I have a comment. My comment is that about 6 months ago, we all were really worried about the number of students enrolling for 2020, fall of 2020. And thank God, it seems like everyone's adapting to the new online classes, 8-week classes. And it seems like we are able to help more students to get the education they need. So that was my comment.
Good comment.
If I may, Chair Youngblood, make a comment. We're only one of 2 institutions in the state of Oklahoma that are up in enrollment for this fall. So that's a feather in our cap. Nationally, community colleges are down, according to the National Clearinghouse, down by over 9% this fall. So we bucked the trend, and I'm very excited about that.
There's a lot of bows that ought to be taken among our staff on all of this stuff. You guys have done a terrific job. I mean, we budgeted for being down 20%, for crying out loud. And so I echo what Jalal is saying. This is very impressive. So any other comments or questions from the board? All right, Michael Hoggett, man, you did it. You did a great job. Thank you very much. And we hope to see more of you in the future.
Thank you, Regent.
Move down to item C. This is our technology report. Mr. Tim Wisenhunt, who we all know, Vice President of Information and Instructional Technology Services, has a report for us.
Thank you, Chair Youngblood.
You think you know how to operate the equipment there, Tim? Is that
It's shaky some days. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you. When I last talked to you in January, the biggest thing that we've all faced lately is COVID-19. It was starting to gain steam. And as you now know, it is running full bore. And I'd just like to talk to you real briefly and at a high level about how OCCC has responded to the COVID-19 experience that we've all got to endure. As you know, it has changed the way that we operate. We've been forced to move to an online environment for our students. Our faculty and staff are rotating back and forth on campus, and that presents its own kinds of challenges. And I just want to talk with you about how that we have addressed those kinds of things. On March 23rd, some months ago, at around 11:30, we sent an email to all of our faculty, staff, and students notifying them that by the end of the day, on that day, we would be moving to an online learning environment, and our faculty and staff would be working remotely. IT had begun working prior to that to make sure that we had our infrastructure prepared to handle that kind of change. We reviewed and made changes to our security protocols. We increased our capacity for people to be able to connect remotely to their computers on our campus and to our network services. And probably most significantly, we upgraded our voice communication system. Eventually, that would allow us to be able to utilize different kinds of technology for people to be able to answer their phones, their office phone from home, and be able to provide that full experience for our students. As we made that announcement, our IT team got to working to get people off campus as quickly and efficiently as we could. We prepared nearly 100 computers for our faculty and staff to use to take home to be able to work. We configured their computers on campus to be able to do the remote desktop. We had to go touch each one of those machines and configure them appropriately for that. And we also sent home devices with our cabinet and our learning management support team that they could connect to, that would put, when they were connected to it, it would put them right back on campus, so they would have access to all their files and all the services that we made available when they were on campus. Lastly, we provided the opportunity for people to utilize Zoom. As we're meeting right now, there is an opportunity for a pro license, which allows the meetings to last longer than 40 minutes, and that's how most of our classes are conducted, is utilizing that. We increased our capacity for that from about 150 licenses prior to COVID to now we're close to 600 licenses. So we have 600 folks that are able to utilize this technology to reach and impact our student lives. While we were doing that, we talked about how that we would be able to support people when they're in this online environment. Most of our students are some of our students that enrolled for classes in the spring last year. They didn't enroll anticipating that they would be participating in an online class. They anticipated being in a chair in a classroom somewhere, listening to someone and participating in their groups and that sort of thing. So we wanted to make sure that we had the supports necessary to be able to assist them should they need that. The first thing that we looked at is our help desk, which is the primary point of contact that people have. We increased our hours from typically business hours were 8 to 5. We increased those hours from 7 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night through the spring semester, so that we had someone available that they could talk to should they have an issue. We increased the number of people that would be answering that phone. We included all of our frontline support team, so that rose the number up to about 10 people that would be answering the phone consistently throughout the day. And we talked to our faculty and staff and provided support for them as they began utilizing Zoom. They get great support from the CLT, but we wanted to be able to meet the needs of our staff as well. So we had our team members available to provide that support as people learned how to utilize Zoom. And Microsoft Teams, which is another video conferencing, chat messaging kind of tool that people can use to communicate within their individual work groups throughout the day. We stationed people here on campus to be able to, if someone turned their computer off accidentally, they couldn't drive up to campus and turn it right back on. So we had somebody here that we could call should those computers get shut down or we had a power outage or something like that. People were here to deal with those kinds of issues. And we started working for the eventuality at some point our students are going to come back to campus, we hope, we believe. So we started taking a look at our classrooms, and we've got people working in our classrooms doing maintenance on those kinds of technology, replacing equipment that needs to be replaced while it's not being utilized. So we're trying to maximize our time that we have available to us, that we have access to those rooms. So after 74 days of people working remotely, on June the 1st, people came back to campus. And we wanted to be ready for them when they came back. So 2 weeks prior to that, I brought members of my team back to campus, and we started going through each individual office. We took a look at every computer, turned it on, powered it up, did updates for it, made sure all the equipment worked. We wanted people to have that seamless transition back to campus. So it's like they never left. And then we also wanted to protect ourselves and our team and our other employees so that we wouldn't have a risk of exposure and spending time with each other as if there was an issue. So we've done that, but as we look at how we responded to that, I think that sets us up to look at how we move forward as well. We believe these kinds of things will happen. We've already experienced it with the ice storm. The work that we did for COVID allowed our leadership at this institution to almost on a dime switch and moved back to that remote environment with very little effort from anyone. We just picked up and went back home. So now we're starting to look at how do we make that transition easier for us. We can send people home with laptops. Laptops are good, but most everybody has a screen on their desk that's larger than a laptop. And if you spend much time looking at that, you need that extra real estate. So how do we enable people to take the office experience home with them? We're looking at smaller format computers. We're looking at computers that are built into the monitor stand. So if we need to do this again, people just unplug their computer monitor, take it home, plug it back up, and you're back in business. We're going to be putting our phone client on all of our computers so that if you are working from home and you're connected to the internet on your desktop computer from the office, the phone will ring on your desktop as well. So those are things that we're looking at, how we extend our services and keep that continuity of operations, but also allow people the flexibility to move back and forth very, very easily. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And again, thank you for your time.
Any questions or comments from the board?
My comment is that Tim and his group of IT have done an excellent job, and they really made it very easy on the board, definitely, and I'm pretty sure that he also made it very easy for everyone on campus and the management and the faculty and the staff. So I really wanted to thank him on my behalf, and I know that everybody is very happy with the way he has conducted the IT services to everybody.
Thank you very much. I'll share that with my team. They've done the heavy lifting on this.
Tim, you're doing a great job. I did have a question though. And this may be a naive question that I know so little about IT, but do we have the ability where if the students are in the classroom mostly, but you have students that can't be in the classroom, that it can be recorded and the students that are in the classroom can hear what's going on, and the students that are having to watch because they have COVID or been exposed to COVID can also participate?
Most of our classrooms are not equipped with that kind of function. That's something that we're looking at and will hopefully be addressing very soon.
OCU Law School uses that. I don't know if it's a very expensive process, but we've mostly been doing it this semester because we've had so many students. It's in classroom, and yet, but that creates all kinds of problems all on its own, and they have not worked out the bugs on that. I don't know if the bugs can even be worked out, but they've tried.
There's lots of ways to do that, and as you're probably familiar, there's lots of different costs associated with those things as well. So trying to find the best fit can be a challenge.
You've done a great job. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you so much.
I'll just add that one of the things that we hear often, and often for good reason, is that higher ed is not able to move fast. That it's too bureaucratic. It's stodgy, and like I said, sometimes that's really true. Listening to Tim's report, I'm sitting here thinking, well, it sure wasn't true here. I mean, the things that you guys are doing, the customer-friendly way, changing your hours from 5 to 7 to 11, just any number of things you talked about, Tim, I think were just really good examples of how to be of service and to just roll up your sleeves and make things happen. So well done.
Thank you, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Tim, thank you very much. Look forward to hearing from you again. That was great. We'll go to item D. These are college updates. We just had a lot of things happening, and so I thought it would be good if we had Danita Rose, our chief of staff, and Jeremy Thomas, our provost. We hear from Jeremy quite a bit. We don't often get to hear from Danita, so I'm kind of excited to hear these two update us on some very important things that are going on. Guys?
Thank you. We are just having a great time over here. We're doing all kinds of fun things and getting to the real business of running the college. Some of the things that I've spent a lot of time with Regina and James with, looking at our policies. We are going through every one of our HR policies one at a time, revising them, looking at them, and making them easier to understand. A lot of these things were technical, and you went from one policy and you followed it all the way through several lines. So we actually have an employment handbook almost ready to roll out, which makes a lot of these things easier to read, makes you understand your benefits much better, and then how your supervisors also implement those things. We have 4 policies that are already completely have gone through the process. One was our human resource responsibilities and authorities. Our employment categories have already been updated. We've updated our holiday policy, our resolution of employment grievances. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we've already done that made life just a little bit easier right off the bat. It was a low-hanging fruit. We are doing a deep dive into every single one of those, working diligently. We've spent hours on this already, so I'm very excited about that. We are currently, the thing that is on our radar this moment are all of our leave policies. Once again, we're trying to take as much red tape of those things out of there. We're asking the question, why are we doing this? Do we need to continue doing it? Does it have a purpose? We have our general counsel in there who's also making sure that we stay within the lines, that we're not stepping into an area that we don't need to. So we're making them employee friendly, supervisor friendly, and we're making sure that we do those right. James makes sure we do not step out of the line. So that's been a fun activity for James and I to work with Regina on, but we're having a great time. We've gone through every single job band, every position in the college has been looked at. We've made salary adjustments. And by that, what I'm saying is we looked at the actual range. We did an analysis, a comparison with the other colleges, and then we've gone in and made those adjustments already. Those will go into effect the first week of December. So we're very pleased with that. We have also had many follow-up meetings from our listening sessions. If you've been watching our listening sessions, every item that has been discussed, we have followed up on. We are being diligent to review those things, to look at them, to invite meetings, and I'm very happy to report that many of your staff, our staff and faculty, have taken us up on it. They are coming through the doors. We are addressing them. So we're not just listening. We're going through and we're making corrections where they needed to be. We're reviewing files, grievances that needed to be heard and adjusted. Those things have happened. And I'm also happy to report that we haven't, it's not just that we've done a lot of things wrong. We have done a lot of things right, but we needed to communicate those facts as well. We have done things right. Sometimes the missing piece was that communication. So we've been able to go back and plug that in as well. So I feel very, very good about that. Jeremy, you can jump in here anytime you want. I get talking and go a long ways, but we have a list of things. I can answer any individual questions. That just gives you a little snapshot. I will tell you whether you see me out in the listening sessions are over, but behind the scenes with the doors closed, we're working on a lot of things. Every hour of our day is being spent making things better. And I feel really confident about our future.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Spinning out of the listening sessions, Danita's right. We've had a lot of students, a lot of staff coming forward to us, having meetings. The development that we went through on the health professions expansion, we've included faculty at a level that I think that they're happy that we're asking those questions. We've started the master planning process with the deans and divisions so that as we move forward beyond that project, we're kind of putting, we have a plan 3 years out, 5 years out, 7 years out. And the feedback we're getting has just been tremendous. By the way, I want to highlight one item of feedback that we did that surprised me. We asked our students, staff, and faculty, what do you want to do next spring? We're watching the COVID cases, so what do you want to do? We had over 3,000 responses to that survey. That's a huge response rate. At a 75% rate, they said they want to continue the plan that we did this fall. So that's when we made the decision that we were going to do mostly online with some hands-on components. That was partially based on what we're seeing on the ground, how we're seeing students respond, but that was with their feedback as well. So trying to make that 360 decision. Again, like Danita said, that's a tip of the iceberg. I mean, we spend a lot of our day listening, discussing, and moving forward that way.
Very Youngblood.
Yes, sir.
I would like to add something about the listening sessions, if I may.
Sure.
I know I was discouraged not to attend none of them, but the faculty and staff invited me, and I thought it was very important for me to be there. Some of us learn differently than others. I'm kinesthetic. I have to be involved in everything so I could absorb it. And even though Danita and Jeremy have done an awesome job in bringing back information to us, until you sit there and feel what I felt as these staff members and faculty members were speaking, you won't get the grasp of what they are feeling at this time, regardless if it's correct or not. It's a perception, and I've always said perception is the main thing. So I want to commend Jeremy and Danita, what they have done, and it escapes to me the moderator of your group. What's the name of the young lady?
Emily.
Emily. To sit in front of a faculty and staff that are battered, beaten up, discouraged, very hesitant to even believe anything, and change from that first and second meeting to this last one that I attended. I attended the last two, and for my colleagues that encouraged me not to go, I'm not disrespecting you guys. That's the way I learn, but I'm glad I did go to the meetings. I didn't get a single approach from a single staff to talk to me. I was there, but I wasn't there. And once that was said, I didn't have anybody approach me. I didn't have to talk. I didn't have to say anything. I just wanted to sit there and absorb. And so, two takeaways from the staff. You have a committed and dedicated staff. No doubt. They will not want to go anywhere else. But then there were some concerns about their lack of trust, their hesitation to believe. Still today, a lot of them say there's no ownership on anyone. There's no remorse apparently from anyone about what they allegedly think happened in the college. And that hurts. That hurts me as a regent to understand that they don't even trust us as a leader to make things right. And so that's the message I got out there. And for the staff, I did write a little thing. I want to make sure that I was very poignant with what I'm, and this is for the staff that eventually listens to this. Let me express my sincere pledge that I will uphold my fiduciary and policy-making responsibilities so that you can feel proud to come to work in a professional and humanitarian workplace. If I was responsible for neglecting any of my responsibilities in the past, I take full responsibility for it, and I ask for your indulgence as we respond to your comments, concerns, and insights.
Thank you very much, Raul. I appreciate your comments. The other thing I think your point is right, that we all learn in different ways. And I think the nice thing I can report back is I believe almost every member has watched every single one of those. And each of us have taken our things away from it as well, including almost everything you've said. This is exactly what I've seen. And I'd also echo that a lot of what we're seeing, and I guess a lot of what I'd say is we can spend some time looking for blame, or we can fix the problem. Sometimes I think you got to just pick. And I think what this leadership have done with Jeremy and Danita is they've just put their heads down and gone and fix problems. And I think a lot of what we see is stuff that's just management practice, things that ought to be done differently and better, and they are being done. And that trust is always something that has to be won back little bitty bits at a time. And there's not a trust wand. And they're doing it when they come and they take Danita and Jeremy up and saying, come talk to us. And I've been told about a couple of those. They go in, they sit down, they look at files, they look at what has been said and done in the past, and we've been able to remedy some of those things that have been done in the past, things that should never have happened. Again, not looking for the blame, it didn't happen right, so it needed to be fixed, and it has been. And so I think I'm going to make some other comments later about the listening sessions, but I certainly concur that they were a little tough to hear some of that stuff, but they were necessary. And I thought that alone makes what these two are doing just absolutely incredible, and it goes way beyond that. So, any other thoughts or questions? Any other updates you guys have that you want to give us at this point? Thank you guys, Jeremy and Danita. We really appreciate it, and we'll be hearing from you a lot as we go. With that, I'm going to move to item 8. This is an action item. Jeremy, you want to update us on some CARES Act money and what we need to do there?
Yes, sir. When we received the CARES Act money in the spring, let me tell you, and I think Cynthia Gary's on the call, I think Cynthia will agree with me that it has been a challenging process, and I'm saying that as nicely and as politically nice as I can possibly say it, to deal with this money. We have different dates where we receive guidance, and then we receive counter guidance, and then we receive counter to the counter guidance. And so at some point you just pull the trigger, and we had been told we could use this to pay salaries. And then they kind of backtracked that just recently on that. And so we had committed all these funds. We thought we had them all spent. And then we find out, well, you may be left out high and dry on that whole idea. So we backed up. We decided that we wanted to do something differently with it. So what we're asking from the Board of Regents is approval to spend that remaining $708,336 on capital projects that can be used to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. This is a little timely because we couldn't take it to facilities in January and then go out for bids because the money needs to be spent by April. There is a time ticker on this. And so we're asking that we get approval to go ahead. Some of the items that may include are sliding doors at our entrances, touchless toilets, touchless faucets, UV possibility for our air handling system. But we're asking permission to be able to go ahead and start soliciting those bids.
And as you get as you start looking at the design, you'll still be able, after the fact, to be working with the design committee to make sure they're up to date.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Normally the process is committee first, then Regents, and then we go out, and I need to take this out of order just a little bit so that we can get those bids done.
Do we have any questions or comments from the board on this? This is an action item. Does anyone care to make a motion to approve?
Motion to
I'd like
approve.
to take him, and I'd like to second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And with that, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana?
Yes.
Regent Font?
Yes.
Regent Perry?
Yes.
Regent White?
Back on the drugs, Jim? There we go.
Now I'm muted, and I appreciate it. Yes.
And Regent Youngblood?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to move to item 9. This is our first time to address how we will eventually fill the position of president at OCCC. Properly, this process is done in public, and that's not just to comply with the open meetings law. It's also because it's the right thing to do for our stakeholders, people like our students, our faculty, staff, community participants, elected officials, and anybody who cares about what we do. So when I have something that a larger kind of point I'm trying to make, I tend to organize it under 3 points. It's easier to remember, and probably most important, it keeps me from rambling. So with your permission, I want to hear from all of you and where you're at and what you're thinking, but I want to share just my 3 points, if I may, to start this off. Number 1, the board hires the president, but the process of hiring a president must include all stakeholders. there's a difference between conducting a presidential search and developing a clear process for a presidential search that broadly includes all of those stakeholders I mentioned: students, faculty, staff, community participants, elected officials. All of these people and likely others have various levels of investment in OCCC. I believe we must first take the time to design a process to make sure we are getting input long before we start deciding who we should hire. I believe we must listen to all stakeholders openly and establish formal structures that encourage everyone to contribute their ideas, no matter what they are. I believe the board should remain open-minded and allow that broad input to inform and direct us to the kind of president we would seek. I have to say that today, I couldn't tell you the kind of president that we need, because we have a lot of different things evolving. As you all know, even this week, we have things evolving. I have some ideas, as I'm sure some of you do. But in my case, I think it would be very wrong for me to project my own ideas as if they're the ideas of the college, or frankly, to become too invested in my own ideas before hearing from the many stakeholders that we have out there. We are a broad, diverse group, and we should hear from every single person who has something to share. Ultimately, the board will drive the process and make the hire, but I believe it should be the logical end of an open and highly involved process. And I believe our first step should be to have 2 or 3 members of this board research and make recommendations to the board on what our process should look like. There are various models out there, and we should have them look at them. So the board hires the president, but the process of hiring must include everyone. Second point I'd make: we should hire to fit the culture we are purposely creating together and not look to a president to create or bring their own. We have used this transition in our leadership as an opportunity to try some new things. As I said from the beginning, doing something different is not necessarily a rejection of what we've been doing, but rather the logical, organic evolution that successful organizations embrace. I think we want to establish for ourselves, all OCCC stakeholders together, our unique OCCC culture. I think we're doing that now. I think we're building on the success of our nearly 50 years to listen better, to be more transparent, to address how we manage ourselves, and changing the systems to continue the positive changes so that they produce that unique culture. I think that we want a president who will fit into our culture and not imagine there's someone out there who will bring some sort of better culture to us. The listening sessions that Raul referenced very eloquently by the college management, I just have to say, they've been fantastic, even though we've heard some things that were hard to hear. And I commend all of you who participated for your honesty and for your willingness to be a part of that process, as well as our leadership for coming up with the idea. As I listened, I believe that the things that our faculty and staff have shared, in my mind, are about the culture that they want to live and work within. I heard loud and clear that even the strongest voices love OCCC, and they love it enough to say, there's some things we really have to do differently. I see our unique culture developing, one that is open and transparent, respectful of one another and the differences that make us stronger, responsible for creating positive results without excuses, and probably other trademarks that are developing even as we speak. Let's eventually find a president who wants to be a part of that culture and who sees that culture as bigger than themselves. And then finally, the third point I'd make is that timing matters. We've undergone a lot of change in the last few years. Students now pay the biggest share of the cost of running our college, and taxpayers, for our first time in our history, are second. At the same time, elected officials and the taxpayers who elect them have demanded more and higher level results than ever before. On top of that, we're now in the midst of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, in case you didn't see that, it was in the news for anybody who didn't know. And all the things that brings, which is the need of, what we heard about today, to move almost all of our teaching entirely online in a very short order. The challenge of staying in touch with our vulnerable student body and maintaining relevance in their lives that are also being uprooted. The pressure on the budget. And on the positive side, moving quickly on positive opportunities created by the fact that we have real answers at OCCC that can change people's lives, and much more. In the midst of all of that change, we put in place a day-to-day management team who are listening and responding to stakeholder feedback. And I hope we'll focus on those positive changes that our management team, specifically Provost Jeremy Thomas and Chief of Staff Danita Rose, have accomplished in such a short time. I know all of us get feedback from people we know at the college, and my feedback and feedback several of my fellow board members tell me about that they're getting has been increasingly excited about the changes we are making. I think we have to factor that into our decisions on how and when we hire a new president. I believe we must give Jeremy and Danita adequate time to continue what they're doing, to listen, respond, grow, adapt, and build our unique culture. If we do this right, we can bring in a president who is not engulfed in day-to-day management issues from the beginning, but can instead focus on our strategic long-term direction and CEO level management of existing systems. We can do that because the college is in good hands and we're moving in good directions. I'm more concerned about moving forward the right way than I am moving forward quickly. So those are my points. I'm one of 7, but those are my 3 points. The board hires the president, but the process of hiring has to include everyone. We should hire someone to fit our culture and not expect them to bring their own to us, and the timing of all of this matters. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of our stakeholders. I appreciate you giving me a chance to sort of weigh in there first. And with that, I want to open it up to any of the rest of the board and see kind of what your thoughts are. Again, knowing things are evolving fast, what are your thoughts, and where do you see us going?
Well, I echo everything you've said, Chair. I do think that we would be remiss if we don't go nationwide and see what's out there. I think when you open a search at a national level, you have the diversity that may not be in existence here in Oklahoma. We give a chance to see what's out there. And that does not mean that we do not hire somebody from Oklahoma, but we cannot limit ourselves to what we have here. That's the only addition to everything you've said.
Thank you. Other comments or thoughts?
Chair Youngblood, my recommendation is for us to take our time, as you said, but this is going to be a lengthy process, as I have been involved with other search committees at the University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State Universities. So I think that we really need to spend the time to understand the candidates and to understand everything. And instead of trying to come to a rush conclusion, we need to take our time and just make sure that we find the right candidate. And I also agree with Regents Fund that we need to do a national search, although we may pick someone from Oklahoma, but I think I agree with Regents Fund.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to comment on the inclusion of stakeholders. I think that that's very important. And as everybody has, or several people talked about the listening sessions, and yes, we all learn in different ways and absorb information differently. I have listened to all of them, and yes, it has been at times difficult. But I think one thing that has come across is that we may not have been listening the way we should have been listening. And so in this process of looking for a new president, I think it is very important that we sit down and we listen. And I think it is something that each board member, that part of it, they need to be involved in. And how we go about making something like that happen, I don't have an answer to that. I do have some, ideas, but once again, Christy processes very slowly.
But very thoroughly.
It's just the researcher. It's in my blood. So, but I think that it is something very important, and I think that each of us need to take the time, however we receive that information, to look at it and process it, because I believe that's the only way that we can understand what our culture is going to be and needs to be.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or thoughts?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I agree with what my other regents have stated earlier. When it comes to finding the new leader of the school, I think that's I loved how you itemized everything, and sticking with that theme, Chairman. I think that timelines are very important. We have this dynamic management team that's putting things together and executing, no different from the facilities committee that we just talked about earlier. What are the timelines and what are our goals? So based off the timelines of this management group and what's the end goal of this group, then that should dictate our timeline on finding the next president. So I know we're going to listen. I know we're going to take all the information in, but I think we need to have some timelines that we're trying to reach. No question about diversifying the search. I agree with all of that. But I just want to know, what are the timelines so we can frame that, and then we can start getting after it.
Thank you. Good points all. Anybody else?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. It's very important that we include all the stakeholders in listening to them and what they have to say. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more that in the process of that we carefully come up with, after listening to the culture, to make sure that those that we might choose to interview or talk to, that we clearly have defined what our culture is and what it is we're looking for. And I agree wholeheartedly with your 3 points. As a matter of fact, Mr. Chair, I would love to see your 3 points in writing, because I think that they were very well thought out and very well put together, if that's appropriate and possible.
I will get those to Rochelle to get out to everybody.
I couldn't agree more with your approach and with what's been said so far this morning. We have a challenging task, but a task that is so important, as we all love and respect and want the best for OCCC.
Thank you. Good point. Anyone else?
Let me respond as the oldest member of this group and the longest tenured. You would understand from my perspective, having been raised in Capitol Hill and so forth, that this has been a difficult time for me as I think about working through as I appreciate very much Danita and Jeremy and their work and the others. And I recognize that it had to be done. And I would agree with you, Deborah, that we need to take our time. We've had processes that didn't take that kind of time, and it was not necessary. But I really believe that this particular process and these particular judgments demand that we not only take time, but we take a long look at individuals who might come as leaders of this institution. We love it. We love the fact that Oklahoma City Community College has been a stalwart in leadership in terms of education in the South Side and the city area. And we know that will continue. but we've been stymied by some things that have occurred, maybe over time, maybe unintentionally, but they've occurred and therefore have thwarted the progress that could have occurred in terms of our institution. I know that that nothing has been said and this sort of thing that would have dwarfed the impact of our present president, and I appreciate very much him. But I also recognize that there have been some things that have diminished the possibilities of individuals on campus here and the institution that we love, that we feel like people ought to love. And a lot of things have occurred that demand that. One of those was this COVID thing, and certainly the diminishing of funding from the state has also determined that. And we've been thrust into some new arenas just because of those kind of problems. But I appreciate your fact of your long look in regard to this. And I say to you that the old culture of the group really appreciate your leadership and the leadership of that is presently on campus to do what needs to be done, and not to diminish what we have felt from our past president. We really appreciate what's happened, and we are on board with getting on with it.
Thank you, Regent White. Appreciate those comments. That, by my count, that's everybody. When did everyone say yes? So I'm really looking forward to entering this process with my fellow board members. This is a dynamic board. This is an exciting board. This is a board that has a lot of different opinions and does not mind expressing them, and I like that. I think that's necessary and healthy and good. For Christy and I, this will be our second presidential search. And Jim, I believe this is your third?
That's correct.
Yeah. So we know a little bit of that side, but looking at the rest of you, all of you have experience at some level of things that we need to hear. And some of you have been involved in searches. Some of you have come from that world. Some of you bring a complete different business perspective or legal perspective and all kinds of things that we should be looking at. And I just, I cannot imagine a better group to go about doing this. So I think it's safe to say to faculty and staff and those looking on, we hear you. You know, we've been listening as well, and we understand that we can do it better. Yes. And I appreciated very much Raul's humility in saying his own responsibility. And I know enough of all of these folks to know we all feel that way. We want to do this right, and if we haven't, we're going to fix it and we're going to make it even better. But I think this board is very focused on our future, very excited about the possibilities here, and we can't wait to hear from you. And we're going to design something that makes sure that we hear from every one of you, and we go through this process together. And so I want to thank all of you for being patient and for listening and everything else that goes with that. Hearing no other comments, I've moved to item 10, Board of Regents request for information from staff. Do we have any? Hearing none, I'll go to item 11. I have no further comments or anything. Any Regents comments that you would like to make before we move forward? Okay, item 13, Jeremy, is there any new business that has come forward since this agenda was put forward that we need to deal with?
There has not.
Thank you very much. I want to go to item 14, which is our executive session. And once again, I want to explain to everybody, this is normal. Nobody I think need worry about what goes on with these. You're likely to see one of these on the agenda from now for a while as we go through this process, because there are certain things that we not only are allowed to, we need to deal with behind closed doors, but it's all fine. The systems are in place. We're doing fine. Nobody's going to go and pull the rug out of it under anybody. It's all good. We're going to be fine. But when we go into executive session, we're going to need to do that from time to time. And so I guess I just want to try to allay any concerns or anxieties people have. This is what boards do when they're in transition of leadership. It's very, very common. And so I'm excited about, where we go and what we do with that. With that, do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I make such a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen?
Yes.
Regent Eccles?
Yes.
Regent Farzana,
Yes.
Regent Font,
Yes.
Regent Perry,
Yes.
Regent White,
Yes.
and Regent Youngblood.
Yes. Keep watching the screen for those of you following. We will try to give a 5 to 10 minute notice when we are done so that we can have everybody reconvene that wants to be a part of it. And we'll see you on the other side. Thank you. And now, staff, if you would walk us through how we take us into that executive session.
Just sit tight and you'll appear where you need to appear.
Okay. We do not have to join the breakout.
When it says join, go ahead and join.
Okay. If y'all see that on yours, go ahead and hit join.
We're slowly but surely returning.
Thank you. Was that purposeful? Did you just tired of hearing from me, or what?
No, these board meetings, a lot of the board members keep talking during them.
Oh, the power you have.
I'll just unmute people and give it the option.
Is it lawful to eat lunch during a board meeting?
Mr. Attorney, I'll defer to the other attorney.
Well, Regent Eccles, if it makes you feel better, I'm sitting here eating, so.
Okay. Well, we'll enjoy lunch together.
James, I'm showing 222. Are we ready to go?
I think so, yes. I think everyone's here.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to reconvene into open session of the regular meeting of the Board of Regents. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Can't come back if we don't have a second.
Second.
There we go. Thank you. Would you please call the roll, Rochelle? Rochelle. Is Rochelle there? This is gonna be a problem if Rochelle's.
We'll try her. Try now.
Yep. Now I'm back. Regent Bergen.
Please call the
Regent
roll.
Bergen. Regent Bergen.
Okay. Here.
Regent Eccles.
Present.
Regent Farzana.
Present. Are we
Yes.
supposed to say present or yes? Yes. I think we are supposed to say yes.
Technically, yes to return.
Yes.
Sorry.
Regent Font.
Yes.
Regent Perry.
Yes.
Regent White.
He's gone.
He had to go.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Go.
And Regent Youngblood.
Yes, I do declare that we are now back in session, and with that, I would like to state that no votes were taken, nor were any implied in the executive session. I would also like to report that in our executive sessions, we take college attorney James Murray with us specifically for those purposes to make sure we stay in bounds with everything that we are doing. With that, item 16 is I would defer because we have no action to take on item 16. With that, I would move to item 17 and entertain any motions that might be available.
Yes. Mr. Chair, I move to direct Chair Youngblood and General Counsel Murray to draft and execute a contract to include additional leadership duties for Jeremy Thomas with a total combined annual salary of $185,000, retroactive to September 1st, 2020.
That is a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen,
Yes.
Regent Eccles,
Yes.
Farzana,
Yes.
Regent Font,
Yes.
Regent Perry,
Yes.
Regent White, and Regent Youngblood.
Yes. I believe I'm within bounds to give some general feedback to our college community prior to a motion for adjournment. Stop me if it's not true, James. But basically, we do not vote. We do not do anything. So these are my opinions, and I think my board members will agree. If they don't trust me, they will tell me if they don't agree. This board is very pleased with the leadership's actions of Provost Jeremy Thomas and Chief of Staff Anita Rose. And we commend them to continue moving ahead and to do so as equals as they have done. And we thank them for their service. You will also see in the future, I think, a very open presidential search process being developed over the coming months. And I will soon be appointing a chair to that in my role as chairman. I can do that and will. We will share more as things evolve, as these things take time to stack one on top of the other. But we do want to assure the college community that we hear you and that we plan to do a lot more listening to you in the coming months. And we thank you. We thank you for your service and all that you do. And then finally, I can assure you this one, that this board to a person absolutely loves OCCC. And we are committed to making it a great place to go to college, a great place to work, and a place that you're very proud of. And we strongly believe our best days are ahead. And so I wanted to share that with the community so that nobody's sitting around wondering what happened. So you'll be hearing more from us is what I'm saying. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Regents meeting.
So move.
A motion?
Second.
And a second. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Regent Bergen,
Yes.
Regent Eccles,
Yes.
Regent Farzana,
Yes.
Regent Font,
Yes.
Regent Perry,
Yes.
and Regent Youngblood.
Yes. With that, I'll call the order of the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the South Oklahoma City Area School District. Rochelle, would you tell us what we've done to comply with the open meeting law?
Yes, notice of the meeting was filed with the Secretary of State and the county on October 5th, 2020. A copy of the agenda was posted at 10 a.m. on November 12th, 2020.
Thank you. And would you call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Bergen,
Here.
Trustee Eccles,
Present.
Trustee Farzana,
Here.
Trustee Font,
Present.
Trustee Perry,
Present.
Trustee White, and Trustee Youngblood.
Here. With that, our sole action is for the approval of our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
A motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Please call the roll.
Trustee Bergen,
Yes.
Trustee Eccles,
Yes.
Trustee Farzana,
Yes.
Trustee Font,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
and Trustee Youngblood.
Yes. Jeremy, is there any new business that should come before this group?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. With that, I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
A motion, a very enthusiastic motion, I might add.
Yeah. We're going to have lunch.
Second.
We have a second. Thank you very much. Would you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Bergen,
Yes.
Trustee Eccles,
Yes.
Trustee Farzana,
Yes.
Trustee Font,
Yes.
Trustee Perry,
Yes.
and Trustee Youngblood.
Yes, thank you very much, fellow board and trustee members. Thank you for all the members of our audience listening in, members of the community. Our best days are ahead. Thank you for being with us. That concludes our business for the day.
Everyone have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Stay safe.
Thank you. See y'all later.